Welcome in to The Scoop, the number one UNC football recruiting podcast in the world, part of the Inside Carolina Podcast Network, and as always, brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, the best and most local place for all your UNC apparel needs. This is The Scoop, and as always, I'm joined by Don Callahan. What's up, Don? Donnie Scoops.
Not too much. I was late to the party this morning. I completely forgot about our podcast. Just got really in depth with the content I was working on and some stuff I was trying to work out. So I apologize to Ross, who is getting
Wow.
up early this morning for that. So my apology. I was a complete mess. My webcam was in my car. My hair is still messed up. I was topless at one point, but we're good now.
Awesome. All right, guys, we have a big show for you today. Before we start, I want to remind everyone to rate, review, and subscribe to the Inside Carolina Podcast Network. Give us a 5-star rating, a quick review about what you like about The Scoop or any of IC's podcasts, and then hit the subscribe button. It gets all the podcasts in your feed. It helps us, and then it boosts our rating and it helps with all the different analytics. So remember to rate, review, and subscribe. The plan for today, let's pull up the schedule here. Last week, the 2021 class was wrapped up. So we're going to start with that by kind of debriefing on the Dontae Balfour commitment. Don was down there in Florida last Wednesday for kind of the last piece to the 2021 class. We're then going to talk about that 2021 class, wrap it up, move on to the hiring of Larry Porter and what that means for recruiting. Look to UNC's 2022 recruiting class, and then get into our top five. The top five we're going to go through at the end of the show today is the top five winter activities. We have a couple of submissions, and Don and I are going to give ours. Don, what is the next top five for the next time we record?
All right, so Ross doesn't know this because he would have poo-pooed it if I would have told him off the air. But as I'm assuming most know by now, especially if you are a video game junkie. Last week, it was announced that EA Sports is going to come back at some point with the NCAA football. So I would like the top five changes, additions you would like to see in the new version for the game. Now, this is going to be a double top five because, as Ross has explained in prior podcasts, he has never been a video gamer. And I'm assuming you played some, right?
Very little. I mean, I played a little bit of 007 like in high school, and
Okay.
then a little bit of like Madden and stuff like that in college, but not much. Never had a system.
Okay.
I mean,
So
I've probably played 5 different video games in my life.
wow. So to not alienate people like Ross who maybe didn't play video games like Ross, or maybe you're a little bit on the older side and video game options weren't all that plentiful. Instead of give me your top five changes, adjustments to the game, give me your top five. What did you do growing up if you didn't play video games?
Okay.
All right, you could do that, Ross. Because I really would like to know what was so
What I did
fascinating about
instead of
Ross's
play
life.
video games.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. That's great. We'll get more into that at the end of the show.
Oh, can I
Stay,
just to submit, make sure, because we've been getting questions about this. You can PM me on Inside Carolina, or you can tweet at me at Don Callahan IC, or you can email me don@insidecarolina.com.
Great. Let's get right into it, guys. Dontae Balfour, the cornerback from Bradford High School in Stark, Florida, 6'2", 170, committed to North Carolina last Wednesday on signing day. Leading up to Wednesday, it looked like the tides had shifted in favor of the Tar Heels. It was between Auburn and LSU and North Carolina. He picked the Tar Heels. He's number 441 overall, so kind of a higher 3-star, I would say. Is that accurate? Higher 3-star?
Yeah, so he got 24/7 Sports bumped his rating up towards the end, which really pushed him. He's a .88 in the composite,
Okay.
so he was a mid 3-star before that rankings boost.
Yeah. So, and then he's number
24/7, who they don't like UNC and all that.
number 33 cornerback, number 67 player in the state of Florida. Yeah, 24/7 Sports has him ranked as the 233rd player in the nation, which is extremely higher than what the composite has. All right, Don, you were down there. Let's start. Let me frame it up for you, set you up. Start at the very kind of beginning. Explain how this recruitment went, and then we'll get into kind of what changed to put UNC in the lead, and then your experience down in Florida during that. But I'll kind of set you up for each kind of answer here.
So right before Christmas, I had a source reach out to me and say, "Hey, look, UNC is going to be adding to this or attempt to add to this class. Really like this kid Dontae Balfour. So be on the lookout that an offer is going to come out shortly thereafter." He tweeted out the offer. I got in touch.
Riveting. Go ahead.
I got in touch with him. He was great, which usually late in the process, kids aren't as willing to deal with media members who they have never dealt with before, but he was awesome. We texted back and forth a bunch. We set up an interview, did an interview with him. And then really, I said to him, I said, look, you're the only guy I'm really focused on for this class for the next month and a half. Let's chat a bunch. And that's what we did. and he was really good about just every once in a while. I mean, he wouldn't get back to me right away, but he was really good about me. I text him, he'd get back to me, whatever questions I had. We did a bunch of interviews, which was great as far as content for the fans, the subscribers. I mean, we had 3 or 4 updates with him. I think so. The main thing is Dre Bly kind of sunk his teeth into him and talked to him every single day. And I think that played a big role where Bly made him a priority. Try to develop that relationship really, really quickly. Also, what helped was that his Balfour's, I think it's actually pronounced Balfour, I think.
Since you know that?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard both.
Okay.
But anyway, so his secondary coach, who he's really, really close with, who kind of handles the recruiting in his high school, idolizes Dre Bly. And I know it's kind of weird to say, but high school kids don't know who Dre Bly is outside of being a UNC assistant coach, which is weird for me because I can remember Dre Bly being one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. But high school kids just don't know about him.
I mean, look, I'm 34, and I didn't really grow up watching Carolina football. And he was good in the NFL. It wasn't like he was some the defensive players. They're not really like stars. And of course, I knew Dre Bly's name because I went to Carolina, all that stuff. But like, I didn't grow up knowing him as much as some people might have. And I'm 34, so think about people in their 20s and in their teens. I mean, they have no idea who he is because he's been out of the league now for probably 10 years, right?
I don't know exactly, but I would imagine it's at least a year.
He was a big deal in college. If anybody followed college football in the late 90s.
Yeah, I remember him at UNC. I didn't grow up following UNC, but I grew up following college football. And I remember him in the NFL definitely as one of the better cornerbacks, Pro Bowl cornerback. But anyway, so this coach on the staff, Coach Shanks, brought a lot of credibility to it because obviously someone that Balfour looked up to, and he's saying, hey, this dude's the real deal. You should see what he did in the NFL, yada, yada, all that sort of stuff. In addition to that, the other schools that were involved with this were, because really it kind of sort of came down, ultimately came down to, I'm talking about when he was about to sign in December, it was supposed to come down to Missouri and Auburn. Before that, South Carolina was a big player, but they dropped out once they fired, forget his name now, Muschamp. And then he was set to sign with Auburn, but then they fired Gus Malzahn a couple of days before the early signing period. So he was starting complete from scratch. Ultimately, LSU, UNC, and Auburn emerged as his final 3. LSU didn't offer until the week of the early signing period. So all 3 were starting from scratch, which really helped North Carolina's cause. And just kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together after the decision was made and after signing day and all that sort of stuff, it sounds like obviously Dre Bly laid the groundwork and all of that. But what kind of, I guess, sealed the deal for him was a Zoom meeting with Mac Brown, which I believe happened maybe early mid-January. And really, I think he has kind of known where he was going since that point, but wanted to stick to the the signing day announcement, because he signed with a few of his teammates too, and I think that was
Yeah.
a big part of what he wanted to do.
Okay, let me get a couple questions here. Quick questions here. Why did he not commit to Missouri in November? Did anything happen there?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think maybe it was a situation where he was set on Auburn
Yeah.
and just
Okay.
kind of moved past. Because sometimes what happens is there's a lot of time, kids will throw in schools that they're not even considering just to keep it. He probably had decided on Auburn and was just like, I can't just say Auburn is my only finalist. So he threw in Missouri, because South Carolina probably didn't make any sense because no one was going to buy that.
So this is a product of South Carolina, Auburn firing their coaches and missing out on signing a bunch of people in November and then not being able to get back in with him.
And also what's important too is that he didn't really emerge as this legit Power 5 recruit until his senior season, where he had a really good senior season.
And they played this year in 2020, which helped him. Yeah, I remember reading that he had a really good senior season, which kind of increased his recruitment profile. What happened with LSU? I mean, I heard LSU wanted him. I reached out to a source, and they indeed wanted him, just like Auburn did. It was a factor of just UNC winning out.
Yeah, I just think that the Bly factor, and with Mac Brown being able to close the deal, made him feel comfortable about that decision.
And this is a player who did not visit UNC. So when he comes to UNC, I mean, maybe he'll go in spring, or maybe the first time.
But he didn't visit. And the only place he visited was LSU, and that was over a year ago. And that was like a stop-by visit with his 7-on-7 team. And at that time, LSU wasn't recruiting him, so he didn't receive any sort of red carpet treatment. They probably just gave him a quick tour around the facilities, and that was it.
Okay, so Dontae Balfour in the 2021 class, he joins Tamir Brown as the other corner in the class. DeAndre Boykins is the nickelback, right? And so he joins a class with a cornerback room that now has Tony Grimes, Storm Duck, Kylie McMichael, Obi Egbuna, DeAndre Hollins. Pretty stacked group now if everybody stays healthy. Am I missing anybody? Sure I am. Anybody else in the 2020 class?
Well, for the DBs is Dontavius Nash, who's
but he's just a safety.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you're talking about just corners.
Corners, yeah. We'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, much.
Okay, edit this. Okay, so let's go back to at what point did you make the decision that you needed to go down to Stark, Florida? Because that's a big deal when you do your primer or your scoop and you say that he would be in your mock class or that IC is covering the event. That is a strong indication that the player is going to commit to UNC. It's kind of a big deal on the IC message boards, right?
Yeah. So
another question. Has there been players that you've gone down to who have not committed? I know Zamir White would be one. Is there any other ones?
There has been. I made the trip.
I remember this one.
Arthur Brown.
Okay.
To Kansas.
That's right.
I went out to Kansas, spent like a couple of days there, and actually had it planned that if he would have picked North Carolina, I was supposed to spend the day with him and his trainer the next day. But as soon as that announcement ended, or as soon as he picked Miami at the time, I don't think he ended. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, I grabbed my recorder, grabbed my stuff, threw it in a bag, got on the phone with Ben, and then also started to try to move my plane flight up. And that's what I ended up doing.
Okay. So, all right. So go back. So at what point did you kind of realize that you needed to go down to Dontae Balfour's commitment? Like, when did that kind of happen that you knew he was going to inside the recruitment here?
Yeah. Yes. This is a little bit inside baseball a little bit, but so there's not like one point where you're like, all right, this is what I'm doing. It's more of like all right, this is something that we got to start to kind of consider. And I think what made things a little bit easier was because of we've talked about the Corona stuff and everything like that and the precautions and people get all mad and everything like that. But I've been pretty cool about everything. I wear my mask. I have my hand sanitizer and all that sort of stuff. Most of my stuff's outside so I can feel comfortable. I didn't really feel all that comfortable flying. And I've talked to some people who have flown and they've said, hey, it's, most airlines, you have your space and all that sort of stuff. But I just felt like an hour or so in a flight with some random people may not be the best idea. So anyway, so I made the decision to drive, which was key, because that, and then also the fact that I have an aunt that lives in Punta Verde, or am I pronounced that correctly?
What's her name?
My Aunt Kathy.
Aunt Kathy. I'd love to
She's,
meet her. I love to meet her. All right.
so anyway, so I had places to stay, and mostly I don't stay with. I have a big family, so I have family all over the place. But usually I don't stay with relatives because it's just a pain in the butt. Maybe I'll have lunch with them or whatever. But Stark is like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like right in the middle of Jacksonville and Gainesville, and so the closest legit hotel was like 45 minutes away. My aunt lives an hour and 15 minutes, so I just was like, all right, I'm just going to stay with my aunt. And what that allowed me to do was basically make the decision at the last moment. So there was a lot of like, okay, we're thinking about it. Let's look into this. And then it came to, all right, tentatively, this is what we're going to do. And then as we were preparing and doing research and all that, it just became more of like, okay, this is what I'm doing sort of thing. So I mean, it really wasn't 100% that I was going until Sunday. And even then I wasn't 100%, okay, this is what this guy's going to do sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
we felt pretty good from what we were hearing, but things were kept under wraps pretty well.
Okay. What was Start Florida like?
I mean, just a typical, small town but has enough stuff
Okay.
there to kind of sustain itself, so you don't have to go other places because there's nothing really around it either.
Yeah, but
But
it is halfway between two really big areas. So
yeah. But once you could tell that it's a speed trap hell because
okay.
literally like the main road that kind of goes into it, it was like 55 and 45 and 65 and 55, and it was like, oh my god. I mean, you couldn't use your cruise control. And then once you get into Stark, even though it was like a busy main road, it was like 30 miles per hour. And I'm like, man, I got to watch myself. I don't want to leave here with a ticket. But yeah, it was a small town and it seemed
It's
to
like
have everything you needed sort of
your
thing.
your normal kind of rural high school in a small town.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like the high school wasn't big at all.
Okay.
I would have passed it if I didn't have the assistance of Google Maps.
Okay. Getting a little off topic here. All right. The live stream. You were like talking the whole time during it. What was up with
Yeah.
that? Live stream was it a lot of trouble?
Yes, because this is why we don't really advertise a whole live stream thing.
Yeah.
Is we don't know what situation we're getting into, and so we want to use the Wi-Fi there because that's most reliable. But because it's a high school Wi-Fi, they have certain things kind of blocked, such as streaming, which is what we kind of dealt with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of it is like I mean, I have the camera rolling and I forget because I mean it's rolling for like an hour, and I'm just sitting there and kind of doing whatever, and people come up to me and talk. Hopefully, I didn't say anything inappropriate during those.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a lot of it. It was weird. Yeah, I kind of like had to refresh it or like restart it on YouTube. Or
Yeah,
like
so
with the
that
embed, so that was weird.
yeah,
Oh,
well, that was the
switched it out a couple times too.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so my phone Wi-Fi worked.
Okay.
But we didn't want to use that just because it can be inconsistent. But
Yeah.
so we did try the Wi-Fi a couple different times at the school, and then ultimately we decided that my phone Wi-Fi was going to be our best option, which limited the quality, and it wasn't a very good situation where they kind of put me. So I know that it was hard for people to see stuff, but that's something that we're going to work. I mean, really, if you think about it, how many other companies do this?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, it's great. People like
so
complain about it too,
yeah,
about the quality or about why you're doing it. It's like, well, you don't have to watch it, and
yeah.
I mean, this is better than nothing, right? All
I
right.
mean, do we want to go back to me giving updates to Ben every however many minutes? I mean, I don't think anyone wants that. I think people would rather have the live stream. But just know that since we're one of the few people that are doing it like this, we're kind of learning as we go, and each time,
It's not
trying
perfect
to
because
improve
it's
it.
technology. You don't know where you're gonna be able to set up. You were kind of in the crowd. It seemed like
Yeah,
wasn't as close, but that's something you can
yeah.
you don't know that until you get there. All right, pretty deep in the weeds there on that commitment. Let's touch one last thing on Dontae Balfour, and we'll move on. What have you heard about him as a player from what he's told you, what his coaches have told you, what your sources have told you about what he can bring to the 2021 class? And now, I mean, Mac Brown's talked about him as well. So we're kind of familiar with him as an athlete and as a player. Floor is
So
yours.
obviously, he's 6'2", so he's long. But the thing that sticks out to me is that a lot of guys who are that tall and play in the secondary, they're a little awkward, mostly because they may have hit a growth spurt and aren't used to their length yet. But he's very, very fluid, very smooth in his motions. And then the other thing that I like about him is that he seems to have a habit of making a big play. If you watch his film, and I watched a couple of his games, I mean, it's not like he's not making like 15 big plays, but he makes some big plays here and there, which is big. And the other thing is that he loves to get involved in run support. So I mean, he has a bunch of tackles. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think he was either second or third on his team in tackles. But when you watch his film, and like I said, I've watched his entire a couple of his entire games. I mean, he just goes aggressively against or tries to make the tackle on the ball carrier aggressively all the time.
Yeah, great athlete, great length. He played basketball. Looks like he dominates the basketball court. 20 plus points on average this season. 6'2" point guard. So definitely has like ball skills and some leadership skills there. Mac Brown and staff always love dual sport athletes. You're seeing a trend of the size of cornerback that Dre Bly likes. He's going after the taller corners. Kyle McMichael, 6'2", Tony Grimes, 6 foot, Dontae Balfour, 6'2". Tamir
Isn't
Brown.
that isn't that strange considering how tall Dre Bly is?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
would
mean, I
think that he
guess
would favor shorter guys.
I'm sure he would take a shorter guy if he thought he could play too.
Hmm.
But it helps to be a little bit taller, have those long arms. Okay. Dontae Balfour is the 19th commitment for UNC's 2021 class. This leads right into our next topic, breaking down the 2021 class, putting a bow on it. We probably won't talk about it much more after this podcast, only in references. Don, let me get your take on the 2021 class as a whole. We've talked about this all the time. Pull it up here on the old InsideCarolina.com. 19 commitments. The rankings didn't move much at all. I think it might have dropped, actually. It's number 14 in the nation right now, number 3 in the ACC, and the average rating is a .9088. Don, quickly, give your kind of final summary and analysis of this class as a whole.
I think it's a solid class. They hit on a lot of their first targets on each position. Definitely an emphasis on in-state guys for the second consecutive class. North Carolina signed 14, which is the most of the internet era that North Carolina signed 14 in-state guys. And then really kind of because it was a historical in-state group of prospects, UNC rode that into top 15 ranking. And I think that's where North Carolina is kind of the sweet spot for North Carolina to get into that top 15, kind of hope to kind of toy with the top 10, which is what they did.
Exactly. And yeah, the in-state thing and really hitting on positions of need. They got their quarterback, really improved on defense, I think, with Silver and Ritzy, which combines on what they did last year with Miles Murphy, Kedrick Bingley-Jones, Clyde Pender Jr., among others. Linebacker got better with Power Eccles and Rod Dilworth, who I think you will hear their name a lot in the next 3 or 4 years. And wide receiver, gotta like what they did with Gavin Blackwell, JJ Jones, and Kobe Passor. And yeah, I mean, I think as I talked to Billy High, if you haven't got a chance, go back and read my interview with Billy High that ran.
I thought it was really good.
Thank you.
I gave you kudos immediately. I read it right away.
You texted. What did you like most about it?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. You asked some questions I wouldn't have asked.
Like what?
Just the angles he went. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I read it like a week ago, but I thought you asked some interesting questions because Billy can be a little evasive with answers. So
Yeah, definitely go check out the interview with Billy High. You can Google search for it or go back on the message boards and try to find that. I'll try to link it in the article of this podcast too, but they hit on every position group they wanted to hit on and got the numbers they needed. Apparently, I don't know if he would have told me if they didn't, but I think they got better at every position and really got some good players on both defense and offense. I mean, Diego Pounds, they really like him. They got their long tackle and Eli Sutton. They got a kind of a really, catch first tight end, athlete, and Bryson Nesbitt. They went out and got the corner they needed to kind of wrap up the class, and some really nice pieces on defense. I think defense is where you'll see this class kind of stand out, because not even the defensive linemen and linebackers, but I mean, I love Dontavius Nash. I think DeAndre Boykins are super high on, a guy we don't even talk about that much. He's a top 200 guy. So 2021 class is in the books, and we're moving on to 2022. Right, Don?
We are.
All right, awesome. When we get back, we are going to talk about the 2022 class briefly. Pull up the old Google Doc here. We're going to talk about Larry Porter, who was hired to replace Robert Gillespie as UNC's running backs coach, how that impacts UNC's recruiting. We're going to get into a little bit of the recruiting biz with Don Callahan, and then we'll get into our top 5. We'll be right back. But first, I want to talk to you about Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. They're in place for all your UNC apparel needs. Right now, the focus is on basketball. Get your basketball jerseys. UNC has won 6 of 7 in January. They just beat Duke. Get your jerseys, a great gift. Get your apparel for the basketball team as they look to make a run in February and March. Home gating merch, stuff you need to watch the games at home.
Gating.
Home gating. This is
it's a thing, I guess.
Thing from Business and us. Anything you need to make the game, fun at home, kitchen stuff, posters, different things for the man cave or the woman cave, or any other type of cave that you're in. And then they have stuff for all varsity sports. A lot of people have kids who play soccer or tennis or golf or other sports that they have. Get your jerseys, get your shirts, get your gear for those sports, especially baseball, which is, I guess, kicking off here soon. Get yourself a baseball jersey or baseball shirt, support that team. And of course, they're alumni owned, they're family owned, and they're local to Chapel Hill. Their headquarters is in Hillsboro. They have a store right on Franklin Street. Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Remember, if you're an Inside Carolina subscriber, you can go onto the premium message boards, Tar Pit or UNC Basketball, and get a 10% off discount code for all your Johnny T-Shirt purchases. Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. We'll be right back. All right, Don, we're back. Let's get right into it. First, Larry Porter. What does that hire mean for UNC on the recruiting front?
I mean, I think.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer this.
Okay,
question.
I'm gonna start off.
Okay.
Let's do his press conference.
All right.
I covered Porter when he was at UNC before. He was here from 2014 to 16.
Okay.
And I didn't really get to know him that well. But he landed some commitments from guys in Florida and the Tidewater area, and he's now gonna be recruiting Charlotte, which is a critical area for UNC. He'll probably have some other areas like Atlanta from his time at Auburn. And he came off. I thought he came off really well. I don't really know what I was expecting, but I don't know. Maybe I thought he was older than he is, but he's young. He's powerful. Well, young is relative, but he's not super old. He knows UNC, which I think is important. He knows the state of North Carolina, which I think is important. He's familiar with the vision of Mac Brown and what he wants to do. I think he'll be a good team player. The fact that he keeps getting hired at big schools, just like Stacey Searles, is a sign that his reputation as a recruiter and a coach and being able to work together with the staff. I think if you keep getting hired at good jobs, I think that's a sign that you're doing something right. And I think he'll be able to focus in on certain recruits, have a good impression with parents and family and kids, and stress education. His son plays at Stanford, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows the business. He knows how to recruit. He's experienced, and I think he knows the game, which I think is a positive. Your take?
Yeah. So the experience is big. Obviously, he has a lot of experience. He was the National Recruiter of the Year twice. I feel like it was like 2005 and 2007.
Like 7 and 9, I think.
Yeah, okay. I know it's a year apart, 2007, 2009. So he's accomplished that. He's been a head coach at Memphis, and then he also has experience recruiting to North Carolina. So I think he brings that. I think he's a safe hire for North Carolina. I've been asked a bunch of things where, I guess the difference between him and Gillespie, I don't I don't think that this is necessarily I'm looking at things only from a recruiting standpoint. So there's obviously a whole nother important aspect, which is the coaching side, which I don't focus on and I don't evaluate too much. But from a recruiting standpoint, I don't think it's like this huge upgrade. I think that both are solid recruiters or different type of recruiters. But yeah, I mean, I think that solid is the best way I can describe it. I think he's going to bring someone he's going to land some recruits in each class. It's not going to be a guy who's going to land like half the class, but he'll land, 2 or 3 recruits in each class. And he'll be involved with obviously the running backs that UNC is recruiting.
And you had some stuff in your scoop. I don't know if you want to go into it too much, but he is actively and quickly tried to get involved with the running back recruits for the 2022 class, correct?
Yeah, so I won't get too much detail, but this was not this scoop. I think it was the scoop prior,
Yep.
where basically all of North Carolina's top running back targets heard from him that first weekend he was hired. And I think that's key because it shows that there's not going to be a whole lot of change, at least initially, in how North Carolina is going to approach the running back position for this class.
Okay. And of course, for the team perspective, he gets Ty Chandler, the transfer from Tennessee.
That's kind of interesting because Chandler, even though when I talked to Chandler's mom, she emphasized that, hey, he didn't make this decision because of Gillespie, but it's interesting that helped North Carolina because Gillespie recruited him and coached him at one point, and now Gillespie's gone.
Yeah, it happens all the time, though. I mean,
yeah,
you commit to a school and the coach leaves.
Yes.
It happens almost every cycle with every school. So you commit to the school, not the coach, is the saying, right, Don?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
Let's move on. 2022, briefly, what's going on right now? What can we expect? Kind of looking forward. We're sitting here in February, early February. Things start popping off in spring usually with a lot of visits around spring camp, spring practice, spring game, leading into May and June when a lot of commitments kind of happen in May, June, July. Where do we stand right now, especially the fact that we're in a dead period?
Yeah, so I keep on getting asked questions. People say, "Oh, I just heard crickets around so and so's recruitment." We need to start to accept that that's going to be the reality for a lot of recruitments. A lot of these kids have not made any visits, and so there's just only so far that they can go, especially when they can see they kind of sort of can see the finish line for this dead period. And so a lot of guys are kind of just treading water until they're able to take visits. And so I expect a lot more movement once we could take visits, which is tentatively scheduled for April 15th. But, in the meantime, all we're having is the same stuff's been going on for the past few months, which is virtual visits, Zoom meetings, and that sort of thing. And really schools, from what I'm finding out, not just North Carolina, a lot of schools, they just do one virtual visit with some of these kids. It's kind of like a touring and all that sort of stuff. And then and that's it, just because these kids, I mean, even for visits, they don't care about the whole nitty gritty on things. Once they see it once, they're good, sort of thing. They want to see it in person. So don't expect a whole lot of movement unless somebody who's made a bunch of visits or is just really sick of the process until after, April, really.
Yeah, but this is a time definitely where coaches are texting and calling and DMing consistently to maintain that relationship until it opens up. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't imagine players are going to enjoy a 20-minute tour through a dorm and academic center as much as getting on campus and hanging out with the players and seeing the social life. It's a weird time. So what's the deal with the dead period? April 15th is going to open up. Is it going to open up partially?
That's the official, is that the dead period ends then. But
so that's happened. That's a rule.
Well, so
whatever.
there is no official period named after that. So that would suggest that they could extend it. So we don't know once the 15th comes, what happens, and the NCAA will come out with that. There's been some rumors that it could be a quiet period, which would allow for visits, but we don't know if they're going to place restrictions on these visits. I believe that would mean no official visits, just unofficial visits. We don't know because one of the reports came out and said the 15th to June 30th for the quiet period, which would normally be the time for summer camps. And are we allowed to have summer camp? We don't know. There's just so much uncertainty still, but at least we can kind of see some some optimism sort of thing.
And high schools in North Carolina are practicing right now and getting ready to play, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's the other aspect of it is that, and Virginia too. We're going to start the season towards both seasons towards the end of this month, and they will continue all the way until May.
Will you be going to practices and games and stuff? Is that something you're going to be doing?
Yes. So I don't know what the situation is for actual games. I've been to a couple of workouts already, and I plan on going to some practices. But a lot of that is it's dependent on the school, the county, and all that, and what they're allowed to do.
Yeah, God, a lot of hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
Okay, 2022. UNC has 3 commitments right now. Travion Green, no, yes, Travion Green. The the
Tayon Holloway.
yeah, Tayon Holloway, and he's the wide receiver, and the cornerback is I forget.
No, Tayon Holloway is a cornerback.
Okay, and what's the other guy?
Is Chapman.
Tyshawn Chapman. Looking at it right now. Tayon Holloway, Tyshawn Chapman, and Travion Green.
Bunch of T's.
Gotta start remembering those names. And guys, our off the last podcast, we did Don's top 10 most wanted recruits for the 2022 class. I put that into an article form for last Wednesday, kind of ran it during National Signing Day to kind of move us on from 2021 into the 22 class. Article was very well received. It was all Don Callahan quotes. I transcribed everything, or at least everything. And the article did really well. I think people really received that well. So we'll try to do similar stuff to that if we can, and come up with some ideas to kind of get into the 22 class. All right, Don, you ready for our next thing?
I am ready.
Okay. What is it? Oh, the biz, covering recruiting. All right, so before we got on the line here, we're going to briefly do this before we get into our top 5. You mentioned like how difficult it is to get in touch with some players. What are some issues that you have in recruiting that is annoying, parts of your job you don't like, parts of recruiting that people may not know about that behind the scenes, like you have to, it's a challenge for you to really to do. Can you kind of get into those type of things?
Yeah, the worst thing is chasing people down. And in-state guys are usually pretty good because I've known a lot of these guys for a long time. They have my number stored. We've talked on Twitter, all that sort of stuff. A lot of the in-state guys I've been talking to since they were freshman or sophomore. So it's usually not a problem. Although you do get a Travis Shaw who is just overwhelmed with stuff where it takes them a little bit of time. And I typically do a lot of my interviews on in person on purpose, and he's only an hour away, so it's not that big of a deal. Out-of-state guys can be a pain in the butt, and I obviously don't know those particular areas. Who are the coaches or trainers that will kind of help you? I mean, I know some of them, obviously.
It's like courting a girl.
I feel like it's worse sometimes because
it's like you text. I mean, this is not from my experience. You text and you're like, all right, waiting a little bit. Should I text again? Should I call?
Well, with a girl, but I mean, if you call
Instagram,
if you call a girl, and she doesn't answer, usually you don't. Especially if you're just start dating, you usually don't call her again until she calls you back, right?
When was your prime dating years? Yeah, all right, we got to be very safe with all this conversation here. Get in trouble again.
Prime dating years.
I'm talking about year like 19, like or 20.
Mid 20s, I'll say.
And then what was the years for that? I think about the technology that existed then.
So I had I dated a girl for 5 years, mostly through college. And then, so after her and I broke up, that I would consider that my prime dating year. So we're talking 2004 until really when I met my wife, which was 2013, I think.
Okay, so 2004, 2010, 13, that type of range. Okay, yeah. So there was, I guess, a little bit of Twitter and texting was a thing, kind of, not until 2008, 9. Yeah. So
yeah. Towards the back end of it, texting became a thing, and then also, I missed the whole mobile dating. Yeah, there definitely was.
You were on online dating.
There was online dating, yes, but not like Tinder, none of that stuff. I think it just kind of, I don't know, maybe it just started, but definitely not something that I
So when you were courting a girl, like what was like how would you kind of approach the texting, calling, messaging aspect of it if you liked a girl and wanted to be and showed interest?
As I said, you send out a text or a phone call, and if you don't get a response back, or you don't respond till you get a response back, sort of thing.
Mhm.
You don't want to. You don't, even if you're super interested, you don't want to overdo it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want to double text.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
But
mean,
with
obviously, once you get to a certain point and it's like super serious, then yeah, I call to, and she's going
hey
to
Don,
like
you
it.
you froze there. Go back. Go back.
I said I would call my wife 10 times right
Yeah.
now, and and it's, she'll yell at me later, but it's no big
Yeah.
deal.
And honestly,
Well,
we're
you're
kind
the
of
dating expert, though.
no, we're off topic here a little bit, but coaches always say that recruiting is like dating, like the college coaches. And
Yes.
so this isn't really far off in terms of how coaches show interest. They don't want to overwhelm, but they want to definitely show it the into into the recruit and everything, and kind of how you communicate with recruits as well as kind of relates as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think mine is like theirs too
Yeah,
much.
it's
I
different.
obviously want to have, I want to have a rapport with the kid. I want them to trust me. Um,
Yeah,
uh, and I want them to have a relationship with me. So, there is some sort of,
and speak freely and be honest and have a good
yeah, yeah, yeah,
conversation
yeah, yeah,
and not feel like it's forced. And
yeah.
that goes to both what Don does and what college coaches
I
do
think
with
college
recruits
coaches, though, they're talking to them a lot more,
and
and they're
deeper.
spending, and deeper and for longer periods of time. And then you have to kind of get into, who they're dating, and where are they hanging
Yeah,
out, what are
and
they
you're
doing for fun, that
and you're
sort of
not
thing.
only recruiting the player, man. Then you start recruiting mom and
Hmm.
dad and the whoever's in their grandma,
And there have been
grandpa.
situations where I know that college coaches have recruited girlfriends,
Like
not recruited girlfriends for them, but recruited their girlfriends that they had.
the recruit's girlfriend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
establish a
I mean, you do
relationship. Yeah,
whatever it takes.
yeah.
I know that's how Don approached dating.
How does Ross approach dating? You're the expert. You're the one who's back on the market. By the way, if anyone's interested in Ross Martin, please reach out to me. You can catch me on Twitter at Don Callahan IC. I will definitely set something up. I could be a matchmaker.
I would love to know how many women listen to this podcast. Probably count it on one hand. I'm sure there are some. 'Cause I think there are a lot of women that are interested in Carolina football. Yeah,
Would
I
would
mean,
you show more chest in the video than what you're doing right now if you knew more
so
women were listening?
remember when I started with Inside Carolina, Buck told me to button up my shirt when I was doing videos.
I wish he would have told you to wear longer shorts.
Yeah, that's never gonna change. All right, yeah, dating, it's part of life. All right, let's move on. This is the coming to the close of our podcast. Top 5, Don. We're about to get into the top 5 winter activities. What is the next top 5 that you previewed at the top of the show?
It's a dual top 5. So your top 5 changes that you
Okay.
would like to see from the NCAA football game, or if you didn't grow up playing video games, what were the top 5 things that you did growing up that was either your substitute for video games, or you did because you didn't have the option of playing video games?
Okay. Can you? I mean, I have no idea. Like, when you mean changes to the NCAA video game, like,
Yeah.
what do you kind of
So
mean by that?
all right.
Briefly,
So
briefly.
okay. Yeah. So it has it has like a dynasty mode and has a
Okay.
online mode. In the dynasty mode, you can recruit. It's not obviously 100% realistic. It's as close as they can. You're working within their limits. So what would you like to see? And then some of the stuff, like in the actual gameplay, like there've been years where they've improved passing or special teams and that sort of stuff. Anything that you would like to see change. And some people have actually, the last version of it was in 2014, or it came out in 2013. But there, some people still playing that version to this day.
And the technology is obviously gonna be better too. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure that'll be
yeah.
changed. Awesome. So if you're into video games, reply to that top 5. You can email Don, hit him up on Twitter, or PM him on Inside Carolina. We're now going to do our top 5 from the last show. This is the top 5 winter activities. Let's go right through it. I'll just read all. I'll read the first 2. Don, you read the second 2.
No,
Okay.
you need to read the second two, because I think this last one might be a buddy of yours. I'll read the first two.
Okay. Okay,
Don't
go
look
ahead.
at it yet. Wait until. All right. John from Lynchburg. Number 5, making chili. Number 4, playing football in the yard with my kids. Number 3, following UNC football recruiting. Number 2, driving in snow. And number 1, planning my summer vacation.
This is very
And then
wholesome. That was a very wholesome one. And making chili, I thought about putting something like that on mine too. So
yeah,
shout out.
I eat chili year round though. I really do. So,
Jeez.
go to Noah in Korea. He confirmed that we are indeed big in Korea.
We're the biggest UNC podcast in Korea.
Yeah, so we need more Koreans to send us their submissions. All right.
Have you ever traveled abroad?
I have not, mostly because I'm afraid that as soon as I get off the plane, I will be kidnapped and sold on the sex slave market. It's a real fear of mine ever since I watched that movie Taken. So yeah, I don't want to.
For the record,
Anyway.
I have no comment to what Don just said.
Okay. This is our top 5. So this is, if you haven't realized yet, this is the non-football portion. So if you are looking for the football portion, you're going to have to wait until the next episode. Okay. All right. Noah in Korea, watching every possible Christmas movie I can cram into December.
Love it.
Christmas morning with my awesome wife and 3 awesome daughters. 3 daughters. Wow, I can't even handle one.
So relatable, Don. He's just a relatable late 30s guy.
Do you think that he moved to Korea to get away from his daughters?
I have a feeling that the whole family lives in Korea.
Oh, okay. All right.
What do you think?
You never know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know his deal. We don't know if he is. Is he military or?
All right. New Year's Day bowl games, hiking through snowy woods, coming back from that hike to a nice whiskey in front of the fireplace.
Boom. Okay, those are great. A lot of holiday related ones. It's kind of, I guess we were thinking more like January, February after the holidays, but we didn't really set those parameters. All right, Dale and Waxhaw. Number 5, being lazy. Don can relate. Number 4, hanging out with my kids. Number 3, sitting by the fire pit. Number 2, cooking and eating more. Number 1, counting down the days until spring. A lot of the answers are like waiting until it gets warmer. All right. Preston from Greensboro. Is this the one you're talking about, Don?
Yeah. Do you know Preston?
I don't have a Preston in my life.
Do you need one? Do you need one in your life?
No. Okay.
For your vacancy.
I'm not going to read number 1. Okay. Preston from Greensboro. Admiring my autographed photo of Thomas Nagano. 4, reading uniform threads. 3, reading threads while Roy Williams is a bad coach. And 2, watching UNC basketball. We're not going to read number 1. All right,
That's a good idea.
Let's get into our top 5, Don, quickly.
Yeah. So this is really, really difficult for me. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
You go first.
All right. I always go first. All right. Number 5, I went with March Madness. I'm not a big basketball fan at all.
It's not even winter. That's spring.
It's March.
March is spring, man.
All right. College basketball. Even though I don't watch college basketball, I watch March Madness. Anyway, number 4, holidays. We got back-to-back holidays. Obviously, everyone knows this. And then followed by birthdays. I have my son's birthday is in January. My daughter's birthday is in February. My birthday's in March. Then we skip April. And then my wife's birthday is in May, which is not wintertime, but I'll include it. Number 3, hot chocolate. I like some hot chocolate. And also I'll throw in there eggnog.
Ooh.
I like some eggnog. I like to throw some Baileys in there, mix it all up, makes Christmas time more fun. Number 2 is the snow. And this is one of the things I kind of miss from living up north. My kids get super excited for barely an inch of snow that we had a couple weeks ago. And I can remember all the fun times I had with actual blizzards. So, and when you come in and you literally like your limbs are about to, fall off because they're frozen to death, and you have to go into the sink and kind of run cold water, not hot water, cold water to thaw them out. and then usually you have the hot chocolate, which I talked about. And number one, Flyers hockey.
Ooh,
You
okay.
know, so that's my number one.
There
Go
was a
ahead.
joke I was going to make during that last spiel, but as a mature, responsible podcast host, I did not make it
Okay.
in regard to the amount of snow you talked about. All right. Um, okay, my top 5. I'm gonna go skiing or sledding. I mean, like just like you talked about with your kids, like snow is a big deal in North Carolina. And so the skiing, sledding, even I'll add snow football, any snow activity. I think that's a huge part of like January and February back when I was growing up, which I think because of global warming, we don't get as much snow as we
So
used
did
to.
you get a lot of snow growing up?
I mean, you get like 2. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners who grew up in North Carolina. You get maybe 2 solid snows a year. I mean, if you're lucky, you get one big one, and then you would have, I mean, multiple inches, and it would last for a week or 2 potentially, and you'd miss a lot of school, and every day would be a snow day outside with your buddies in the neighborhood. It was awesome. I mean, it's one of my best memories growing up was snow days. Even a couple days was awesome.
Yeah.
I would say recently, like running in the cold weather, when it's not as hot. I'm talking about 32 plus, kind of 32 to 40-degree weather is great for running.
Mhm.
And I know Don, not a big workout guy, so he can't relate, but doing a lot of winter running is great. Um, I would say Valentine's Day.
Ooh. So who is the special woman that you're going to take out on this weekend?
No comment. I'm just saying, I love Valentine's Day. We're big romantic. And then to add on to that, as my next answer, it's gonna be
Big
just kind of
romantic.
hanging out on the couch, watching Netflix, being lazy underneath a blanket or two, with maybe a special someone. Those kind of afternoons and evenings are awesome. I do love watching Carolina basketball during the winter. I think you get these dog days of winter in January and February when the Super Bowl is over. There's not much, there's not any college football. Uh, NFL football is wrapped up, and so it's pretty much all college basketball. You can really get into the ACC slate, following UNC. You got the weekday game, you got a weekend game. There's something about watching ACC basketball on a Saturday that I really enjoy. And I'll with wrap up with cooking. Yeah, you get some time inside where it's cold outside. You want to try some new dishes. The chili kind of sparked my memory on that one, but you have time to bake, to cook, try new recipes. So I do enjoy doing that. I think in the winter and the colder months, you have kind of more of a chance to really be inside and cook and try new recipes.
So, all right, I got a question.
Okay.
Okay. This weekend is Valentine's Day weekend. You don't have to name names. Are we talking multiple women this weekend? Are we talking just one? What's kind of for Ross, who's on the market? What's going on this Valentine's Day weekend?
I've told you I'm not going to talk about my personal life on this podcast. Guys,
Oh,
thanks so much for
Ross.
listening. We will get you
Ross is no fun.
in 2 weeks from now.